Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Evil Within 2, Nightmare difficulty, no upgrades, no keys, and no damage walkthrough. This is Chapter 9, it's called Another Evil, and we're going to be transported back to the room, and where there was once a humble detective's office, there is now these machinations of a bizarre cult leader that we're now going to be taking on in an aptly titled chapter. But before we do that, I'm probably going to hit the bench, as we've been doing in all these videos. We're going to go into the crafting, and we're going to go and try and make ourselves a little bit more tenable when it comes to actually beating this game. So I make 7 sniper rifle bullets, because I used a ton of them against the boss, and I don't mind replacing them because they are worth it in the end. They are very powerful, and every time we hit that we will get a save point, so you don't have to manually save if you don't want to. Of course, if you're on classic mode, that's just not an option that you're going to be given. But on classic mode, I'm hoping you've given your saves quite a lot of thought, because you only get 7 of them, and that means if you don't save after certain bosses that you don't like and you die, you'll have to do them again. So definitely think about those saves, very important. But we've now been transported into this rather derelict looking dungeon. It has the markings of the Inquisition and the torment of poor souls ahead of us, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff, hopefully. But I'm examining the altar to check out the symbol. I believe this symbol was in the church in the first game. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that that's where it's come from. But this is one of those missions where there's not too many bad parts to it, as far as difficulty goes, but you can still get tripped up with many of the features of this game. And the greatest feature that is going to trip the most players up is just the fact that the game runs kind of interestingly. Certain scenarios play out in strange ways, and they don't necessarily go the way you expect, or you try to do something relatively simple and it just doesn't quite happen the way you wanted it to, and everything hits the fan and everything kind of goes to hell. But we're going to be moving into this room here, and this is an interesting room as well, because at the forefront here you see that guy laid down next to the bottle, or next to whatever he's next to, and it gives you the illusion that he's going to get up at some point, because he looks like one of the models that does. And I aim my gun at him to point him out, just for the people who might not have noticed. He is the red herring in this entire encounter. I don't know if you go out close to him after you've picked up the stuff inside this crawl space and he stands up, but what I do know is they're going to teleport a body in. So you'll notice we entered this area and that was the only threat we could see. Well, when you come back through this zone, there's going to be a body very close to where you entered. And because you already have the illusion that this room is safe and that you haven't been jumped, you're probably going to exit the room quite quickly. Well, if you do that, he's going to jump up and you're going to have to fight him. You can use a bottle to his face, stab him in the throat, get rid of him that way, or you can shoot him a few times. However you choose to do it is fine. I'm going to just not trigger him. So you'll notice, to my left here, you can see that there is a body on the ground. Do you see that in the flame? Just there, in the blood. He wasn't there before. It's just one of the new additions, one of the more dynamic features to try and catch you off when you come back through here. So just crawl past him, I aim my shotgun to show him once again, and then we can just get on with the rest of the game. You don't even have to go in that room if you don't want to. All we got was, a bottle and maybe some gunpowder or something. It's not, the end of the world if you skip it. And then in here you see the trials of the executioner that they're going to hopefully be felling later on. And we can hear some lovely blood-curdling screams, and there is a crawl space behind you, where if you go through here, you can get access to some more items, but there's also a pretty interesting enemy in here. So, I ended up getting a crash on this part, and I had to go back on the save and do this twice. The first time I came through here, because I didn't look to the left, I didn't notify this guy that I was here. So when I picked this up, he didn't stand up. But on this one, he did. And the only thing I can think of is that I looked at him when I entered the room, and that's the modifier that enabled him to function. But there are 2 things you can do here, guys. You can not look at him, pick it up, and then immediately go back into the crawl space. Or, even if you do look at him, once you pick it up, you can go immediately back into the crawl space. Because you get a very nice window of opportunity whenever an enemy tells you they're going to attack you, because they have to scream first, or they have to do an animation. While they're doing that, you can be running and going into the crawl space. He cannot follow you in there, and you don't have to waste any bullets. But I got a little bit thrown for a loop, so I put him down with the pistol. And I haven't really been using the guns that much at this moment, so I can afford to do it. But if you don't want to waste the bullets, feel free to just skip him, because you don't even have to go in the room, these are moments that I imagine if you're doing classic mode, you'll probably be avoiding, because this next room is the real difficulty. And once again, I have another word to the wise here. There are 2 enemies at the end of this room that I'm going to be killing by using harpoons. It's not the end of the world because I can get the harpoons back, but I was hoping that in the second phase of this encounter post-crank, these 2 guys wouldn't be ripping apart a body. But it turns out these 2 guys have nothing to do with that body, so if you don't kill them, you're not really in for any different of an encounter. So it's one of those things where you don't have to really do what I just did then, because you're going to be facing trouble anyway. And I was hoping to avoid it, but it turns out it's just one of those unavoidable spawns. And this entire sequence here is 100% atmosphere. They're doing it to give you the illusion that something is going to happen, and it doesn't. And then when you do the crank, all the doors open and all the bad things happen then. And the strategy for that moment is going to be quite simple, folks. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be sneaking past everything. We're going to be getting the attention of the witch, and then we're going to be luring the witch down a corner where all the cells are, and then we're going to be breaking her line of sight, breaking her attention span, and then we're going to be able to open the door because she moves so very slowly back to where she should be, and then she'll not hear the door, and then we can get through it without incident. And it's a really good strategy, and it works well. It's just there is many opportunity for it to mess up, because the game can be quite random. But there is one of the harpoons back that we fired. Here's the wrench. And then immediately from here, we're going to have a very aggressive strategy. So run forward, kick the door, run past this area, and then take cover behind this pillar just here. There's going to be 1 guy runs across. There's going to be 2 guys that come out of this cell in front of me. The 1 guy's going to go to the right. The other guy's going to come to the left. The moment he turns around, we're going to move out, and then we're going to stab him. And it's going to look a little bit like that. You need to be careful here, guys. Whenever you do any kind of aggressive stealth strategies like this, there's always the opportunity that the haunted can see you and they'll spin around and they'll be alerted. Somebody in a comment left information saying that when you get behind people, you can stand up and then you can stab them, and you can still stab them. You don't have to be crouched like the Evil Within 1, which is a really good tip to know when you're in a bind and you need to do something quickly. But I will add to that, just be careful, because there's been a few times where I've been behind them crouched and the enemy's turned around and known where I was and I've got into bother. So you just need to be aware of the situation when it's worth it. But do you see this? There's these 2 fellas eating this body. They're there regardless of if you kill those people I killed before. And the door just in front of us to the right in this cell is where the witch comes from. So I'm going to get rid of the 2 lost people by headshot harpoons, and then I'm going to have fun with this lady. In fact, I might do this slightly differently, because my original strategy here was to headshot the witch with 1 harpoon, kill her instantly, but that doesn't work unupgraded. And then I just stealth killed both the 2 lost in front of me and I opened the door. Nice and easy. Well, that doesn't work here. So instead, I'm going to get rid of these 2 guys so that they don't interrupt me when I'm opening the door. And all I'm going to do is I'm waiting for see the gesture that they do when they stand up like that? And they prostrate? Well, I was waiting for that, and then this guy saw me. But he's going to go to the last known position, and then from there, we're going to use this to hopefully put some pressure on him and deal some damage. So I flank around the crypt, and then I stab him, and then hopefully there won't be too many dudes too close. Interesting. So somebody saw this, the witch saw this, she screams, I'm going to move back over here, try and break line of sight from them, and then they're all going to be walking back to where they're supposed to go. This is quite a cavalier strategy here, guys, because my original one wasn't working. But it does work well once you get into the right positions. It's just, like everything in this game, when it escalates, it goes bad really quickly. So here we have a Lost who's going to be doing an interesting path. He's going to walk all the way into the cell on the left. So I think I'm going to just walk behind him and stab him in the brain. But I guess we'll find out. He's an interesting one, him as well, because I think he has something on his face that stops you from shooting him with bullets and having the same results. I don't know if he's one of them, but there's one of them later on that has a more armoured face, I think. Interesting. How did he not see me then? Wow. Oh, it doesn't matter. He saw me then. Randomly turns around. Wait for it to finish, then slash. There you go. But do you see it on his face? Oh, wow. That was an awkward-looking blob of green gel. He had a weird mask on, and I believe the mask stops headshots when it comes to bullets. Of course, you can shoot them on the top of the head, and that will still do damage, and you can shoot them in the sides and in the back and everything, and you'll be fine. But if you shoot them directly, it'll just rebound off them. Circa the joyful Resident Evil 4. But there's the witch. There's this guy. Let's get rid of this guy. And the witch is onto me, I believe. She's sounding excited. Look to the right, Chris. Look to the right. Yeah, she's coming. So this is where you want to get her. You want to get her in here, and then you want to get her confused. And all you need to do now is move to my right. Keep moving to my right. Keep moving, and then go and hit that door. She's going to be down there, all inquisitive and not quite sure what's happening, and all you need to do is hit the door. I'm being kind of tentative because this was me making it up as I went along. But it worked perfectly. So, get rid of the two guys. However you could do it, it's up to you. Get the witch over there, and then open this door. It's that simple, folks. And because she has to return to her set pattern, and she does it really slowly, that means she's going to be slow walking for quite some time, and she'll have no time to see us, no time to react, and we can get under this gate, and we'll be past that section. And me being the silly bugger that I am, I have to look back to see if I can go and get any more loot. So I'm going to trigger her again as I come back through here because I'm greedy. And I see that, which is a new harpoon, so I pick it up. Does it spawn him? It doesn't. I'm not going to break the box because that definitely will if he stands up at all. One of the things I don't really know. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to check again to see if there's anything else to pick up. And this is inevitably going to lead to me getting the witch on me, so learn from my mistakes, guys. There's nothing so precious that you can put kind of these risks in, especially if you play classic mode. Because look, she's there. It's like, okay, will she follow me down into this corridor? So this was science at this point, because I'm going to turn around as I check these locked doors, and she does follow you down here. Some enemies will not follow you into certain thresholds, it's like they're not allowed, but this one is, so be very careful. And then I look around, there's almost nothing to pick up in this room, always fun. And I believe she's just slow walking this way. There she is. She's all pissed off and all inquisitive. Here she comes. She knows where I am, but she's pretending not to. So she's doing a little slow walk, but she has a good idea where she needs to go. But check the doors, can't open them. Hit the door behind you, Chris. Enough with this. Put her out of her misery, and then you'll never see that creature again in this zone. But she's still coming. Look, keep looking back. But for the most, Chapter 9, that's the only real part of Chapter 9 I think you'll have too many issues with. The problem really here is you don't get much warning before they throw you into Chapter 10. And Chapter 10 is one of the tougher parts of the game. I just can't let it go, can I? I can't just leave it. I can't leave her be. But you'll notice, she can't... I don't know why she's stuck, but she is. And we won the victory of standing our grounds, you see. She got stuck before I did. So that's a win, right, folks? Anyhow, fall off the ladder, kick the gate, push forward. There's going to be a lot of expositional moments here, where Father Theodore's trying to break us, and he's going to be talking to us, and we'll be running through these expanses. And then we're going to end up in his zone, and he's going to blast us out of his zone. So there's going to be an opportunity coming up here, guys, where you want to save, and you want to build as much stuff as you can, because you're going to be taking on, I think it's 3 to 4 waves of bad things. But before we can do that, we have this fight. I hate this fight. And you might be wondering, Chris, why do you hate it? It's just standard Lost. They're just a little bit tougher now because they can set themselves on fire. Well, I attempted to do this with my bottle, as you just witnessed, and it didn't go so well. Did you see that? That first shell just missed. Can we just have confirmation right then? Confirmation that I fired a shotgun at a dude from 5 yards, aimed at him with the reticle on him, and it fucking missed. Can we just have that conversation? That should never be a thing. Do not use that shotgun, guys. It's horrible. It can probably happen with all of the shotguns. It might be a detection problem, but suffice it to say, that is garbage and shouldn't exist. But I was trying a while to get all 3 of these guys with the bottle. And normally when I missed the 3rd bottle and it broke, I would restart. So I restarted this fight a dozen times, because these enemies just seem to be way more aggressive than the other guys, and way more intuitive when it comes to dodging my bottles. But this was the run where I was like, I can't be bothered with this, I'm just going to shoot people. And then I got robbed with my shotgun blast, so I was very disappointed with that. And it really, whenever I shoot a shotgun in a survival horror game, it's supposed to be something. It's supposed to mean something. That's what shotguns are. Shotguns to me are the quintessential survival horror tool. They are the tool that you get in almost all of them, and they're the tool that you use at the end of the game, because it has such consistency. It's that good. So for you to aim at something and fire and nothing happen, that is a fucking problem. But here is an opportunity to do some crafting, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I know what's coming up. And Chapter 10 is not that difficult of a chapter, but the beginning part is definitely going to test your patience, because it's just tricky. It's one of the trickiest parts of the game. But there's the save point. There's me going to the mirror that doesn't exist because they've moved it, and then here is the actual mirror. But back into the fray, back into the hell pit. We can move on. There's a nice LOD texture pop in. And then we can move into this room, which is a puzzle room. And I don't know if after you do this puzzle, if you can go back and save, but it'd be wonderful if you could, because I get the feeling that you can't. And that means on classic mode, that's your last opportunity to save, so you're going to have to do this puzzle every time you get hit during the cabin siege. And that just sounds brutal to me, because it sounds not fun. I'm going to have to ask my buddy on Twitter if that's the case, because I'm going to be doing classic mode on Xbox One, and the game runs like shit, the game looks like shit, and the game plays like shit. So I'm really excited for that. I'm going to be doing the most frustrating difficulty with the worst performing game. And if it was on PC, it'd be a piece of piss, because the PC version, other than some micro stutters that happen every so often that I thought was just my rig, or because I was capturing, turns out it's built into the game, and even Digital Foundry had those problems when they were using a Titan X, so it's not my hardware, it's just that, unfortunately, the port is not quite as good as it should have been. But I have to put an addendum in at that, folks. I played this game, 1080p, 60 frames per second, fluctuating between 50 to 60 frames in the moments where the frame rate just doesn't want to be 60. I had everything set to ultra or high. I turned off a bunch of motion blur and things like that because I'm not a fan. And I didn't get that many stutters. I only noticed maybe one every hour or so of playing, maybe one or two. It never affected gameplay, it never affected combat, it never got in the way where I blamed it for my failure. So, for the most, as much as it's inexcusable and it shouldn't exist, and I hope they fix it for PC players, it's not a big deal if you're going to do 1080p 60, I think. And if you must have a decent graphics card at least, because I really only noticed it a handful of times. And at the end of the game, I noticed it more, but I think that's just because the end of the game has got a lot more going on as far as the hardware end. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.